The crowd roared, a tidal wave of adoration crashing over Emily Harper as she stood center stage, her voice soaring through the packed Boston theater. At 28, she was a supernova, a Broadway-bound singer whose name lit up marquees and headlines alike. But in the wings, her twin sister Sarah watched, her heart pounding with a secret that could unravel everything their family had built. Born minutes apart in a small Massachusetts town, Emily and Sarah Harper were mirror images with opposite souls. Emily was the golden child, her voice a gift that had carried her from church choirs to national stardom. Sarah, though, was the shadow, sharp-witted, rebellious, and fiercely private, her dreams tucked away behind a guarded smile. Their parents, devout and ambitious, had always seen Emily as the family's pride, while Sarah, with her leather jackets and untamed spirit, was the unspoken disappointment. Growing up, the twins were inseparable, their bond a fortress against the world. They'd sneak out to the old oak tree by Willow Lake, whispering secrets under the stars, promising to protect each other no matter what. But as Emily's star rose, Sarah's truth began to surface, a truth that would test their bond and shake their family to its core. Sarah was in love with a woman, and in their conservative hometown, that love was branded a sin. It was a crisp autumn evening when Sarah first saw her. Mia Carter, 27, was a photographer with a laugh like sunlight and eyes that saw through Sarah's defenses. They met at a local art gallery where Mia's work was on display, black and white photos of forgotten places, each frame pulsing with life. Sarah, there to support a friend, found herself drawn to Mia's quiet confidence, the way she spoke about capturing beauty in broken things. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, from art to dreams to the weight of expectations. By the end of the night, Sarah's heart was a battlefield, torn between fear and a longing she'd never dared name. Weeks turned into months, and Sarah and Mia's connection deepened. They'd meet at hidden corners of the city coffee shops in Cambridge, quiet trails by the Charles River, stealing moments where Sarah could be herself. Mia, with her easy smile and fearless heart, made Sarah feel seen, not as Emily's twin or the family's shame, but as someone worthy of love. Yet every stolen kiss carried a shadow. Sarah hadn't told her family about Mia, and the secrecy was a weight she carried alone. Meanwhile, Emily's career skyrocketed. Her latest single topped the charts, and she was invited to perform at a high-profile charity gala in New York. The Harper family basked in her glow, their modest home now a shrine to her achievements, trophies, framed articles, and photos of Emily with celebrities. Sarah's absence in those frames was stark, a silent reminder of her place in the family hierarchy. Their parents, Ellen and Robert, spoke of Emily's success with pride but mentioned Sarah with sighs, their disapproval cutting deeper than words. One night, after a particularly grueling rehearsal, Emily found Sarah at their old haunt by Willow Lake. Sarah sat on the grass, her knees pulled to her chest, staring at the water. "You okay?" Emily asked, her voice soft but laced with worry. Sarah's silence was answer enough. Emily sat beside her, their shoulders brushing, and for a moment, they were kids again, sharing secrets in the dark. "I'm in love, Em," Sarah finally whispered, her voice trembling. "Her name's Mia." Emily's eyes widened, but she didn't pull away. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her tone a mix of hurt and curiosity. Sarah's laugh was bitter. "Because Mom and Dad will lose it. You know how they are. To them, I'm already the screw-up. This'll be the final nail." Emily reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. "You're not a screw-up. You're my sister. And I'm here, okay? No matter what." But the weight of their parents' expectations loomed large. Ellen and Robert had built their lives around tradition, their faith a rigid framework that left no room for Sarah's truth. When Sarah finally gathered the courage to tell them about Mia, the fallout was catastrophic. It was a Sunday dinner, the table laden with roast chicken and tension. Sarah's words hung in the air like a storm cloud. "I'm in love with a woman." Ellen's fork clattered to her plate. Robert's face hardened, his voice low and cold. "You're confused, Sarah. This isn't who we raised you to be." Emily tried to intervene, her voice shaking. "She's still Sarah. She's still your daughter." But Ellen's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but of shame. "You're throwing away everything we've given you," she said. "What will people say? You're embarrassing us, Sarah. You're embarrassing Emily." Sarah stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "I'm not your trophy, Mom. And I'm not your shame. She stormed out, leaving Emily torn between her sister and the family she'd always tried to please. That night, Sarah found solace in Mia's arms. They sat on Mia's apartment balcony, the city lights sprawling below. I don't know how to do this, Sarah admitted, her voice raw. They're my family, but they make me feel like I'm nothing. Mia cupped Sarah's face, her touch gentle but firm. You're everything to me. And you're enough just as you are. Their kiss was a quiet rebellion, a promise to fight for their love. But the road ahead was fraught with challenges. Emily, caught between her loyalty to Sarah and the pressure of her public image, faced a choice: stand by her sister and risk her career, or stay silent and preserve the life she'd built. As the gala in New York approached, whispers of Sarah's scandal began to spread. A local gossip blog caught wind of the Harper family drama, and soon tabloids were circling. Emily's manager, a sharp-tongued woman named Carla, warned her to distance herself. You're on the cusp of greatness, Emily. Don't let Sarah's choices drag you down. But Emily couldn't shake the memory of their childhood promises under the oak tree. She saw Sarah's pain, the way her sister's shoulders slumped under the weight of judgment. Emily knew she had to act, but the cost of standing up for Sarah could be everything she'd worked for. Sarah, meanwhile, was finding her own strength. With Mia by her side, she began to see her identity not as a burden but as a truth worth embracing. They attended a local LGBTQ+ support group, where Sarah met others who'd faced similar struggles. Their stories saw rejection, resilience, and love gave her hope. But the fear of losing her family, especially Emily, lingered like a shadow. One evening, as Sarah and Mia walked hand in hand through the park, a group of locals jeered, their words sharp and cruel. Sarah froze, her heart racing, but Mia squeezed her hand. We're stronger than their hate, she said, her voice steady. Sarah nodded, her resolve hardening. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore, she was fighting for Mia, for their future, for the right to love without shame. The gala was days away, and Emily stood at a crossroads. She could play the role of the perfect daughter, the untouchable star, or she could risk it all to stand by Sarah. As she rehearsed her performance, her mind drifted to her twin, to the secrets they'd shared, to the love that bound them despite their differences. In that moment, Emily made a choice not just for Sarah, but for herself. She would use her voice not just to sing but to speak out. The gala would be more than a performance, it would be a statement. But as the lights dimmed and the crowd waited, the question remained. Would her stand be enough to heal the rift in their family, or would it tear them apart forever? The New York gala was a glittering affair, a sea of tuxedos and gowns under crystal chandeliers. Emily stood backstage, her sequin dress catching the light, her heart pounding not from stage fright but from the decision she'd made. Tonight she wouldn't just speak for Sarah. For love, for truth, even if it cost her everything. Sarah, meanwhile, was miles away in Boston, sitting in Mia's small apartment, her phone buzzing with notifications. The gossip blogs had escalated, their headlines vicious. Emily Harper's twin shames family with lesbian scandal. Sarah's stomach churned, but Mia's hand on hers anchored her. They don't know you, Mia said, her voice a quiet fire. They don't know us. Back at the gala, Emily's performance was flawless, her voice weaving through the crowd like a spell. But as the final note faded, she stepped to the microphone, her hands trembling. I dedicate this song to my sister Sarah, she said, her voice clear and unwavering. She's the bravest person I know, and she's taught me that love is worth fighting for, no matter who it's for. The room fell silent, then erupted in murmurs. Some clapped, others whispered, but Emily didn't care. She'd lit a spark, and there was no going back. By morning, her speech was viral, splashed across social media and news outlets. Some praised her courage. Others called it a publicity stunt. Carla, her manager, was furious, warning of lost endorsements, but Emily felt lighter than she ever had. Sarah watched the clip on her phone, tears streaming down her face. Emily hadn't just stood up for her, she'd put her career on the line. Sarah texted her. I don't deserve you. Emily's reply was instant. You deserve everything. But the fallout was swift. Their parents, Ellen and Robert, were mortified. They called Emily, their voices thick with anger. You've humiliated us, Robert said. This wasn't your fight. Emily tried to explain, but Ellen cut her off. You're throwing away your future for Sarah's mistake. The word stung, but Emily held firm. She flew back to Boston, determined to bridge the gap between her sister and their parents. When she arrived, she found Sarah at the lake, the same spot where they'd shared their childhood dreams. I saw what you did, Sarah said, her voice breaking. Why risk it all for me? Because you're my family, Emily said, pulling Sarah into a hug. And I'm done letting them make you feel small. But reconciliation was a distant hope. Ellen and Robert doubled down, refusing to speak to Sarah unless she fixed herself. They pressured Emily to retract her statement, to salvage her image, but Emily refused. The rift grew, and the twins found themselves leaning on each other more than ever. Sarah, bolstered by Emily's support, began to embrace her identity openly. She and Mia attended more community events, their love a quiet act of defiance. At a local pride festival, Sarah spoke publicly for the first time, sharing her story of struggle and hope. The crowd's applause was a balm, but the absence of her parents' support was a wound that wouldn't heal. Emily, meanwhile, faced professional consequences. Several sponsors pulled out, and Carla hinted at a potential label drop. But Emily's fans rallied, her speech resonating with those who'd felt silenced. She started receiving letter stories of others who'd faced rejection for their identity, thanking her for giving them hope. One letter, from a teenage girl who'd come out to her family, brought Emily to tears. You made me feel like I'm not alone, it read. The twins began to rebuild their lives, together but apart from their parents. Sarah moved in with Mia, their apartment a haven of warmth and acceptance. Emily visited often, their evenings filled with laughter and music, a reminder of the bond that no scandal could break. But the weight of their parents' disapproval lingered, a shadow over their newfound freedom. One day, a letter arrived from their mother. Ellen's handwriting was shaky, her words hesitant but sincere. I don't understand your choices, Sarah, but I miss you. Can we talk? Sarah stared at the letter, her heart caught between hope and fear. She showed it to Mia, who nodded encouragingly. Maybe it's a start, Mia said. Sarah agreed to meet her parents at a neutral spot, a quiet diner in their hometown. Emily insisted on coming, her presence a shield. The meeting was tense, Ellen and Robert's faces etched with discomfort. We want you back in our lives, Ellen said, her voice strained. But we need time to accept this. Sarah's eyes burned, but she held her ground. I'm not asking you to change overnight, she said. But I'm not changing who I am either. I love Mia, and that's not going away. Robert's silence was heavy, but Ellen reached across the table, her hand hovering before touching Sarah's. We'll try, she whispered. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall that had separated them. Emily watched, her heart swelling with cautious hope. She knew the road to reconciliation would be long, but for the first time she believed it was possible. As they left the diner, Sarah squeezed Emily's hand, a silent thank you for standing by her when the world felt against them. But the world wasn't done testing them. A major talk show invited Emily to discuss her gala speech, and rumors swirled that they'd ask about Sarah. Emily saw an opportunity not just to defend her sister, but to amplify the voices of those like her. She prepared carefully, knowing the spotlight could either heal or harm. Sarah, meanwhile, faced her own challenge. Mia had been offered a photography residency in San Francisco, a dream opportunity that would take her across the country. The thought of leaving Boston, Emily, and the fragile hope of reconnecting with their parents terrified Sarah. But Mia's eyes shone with possibility, and Sarah knew she couldn't hold her back. As the talk show date approached, Emily and Sarah sat together, planning their next steps. If I do this, Emily said, it's for you, for Mia, for everyone who's been told they don't belong. Sarah nodded, her throat tight. And if I go with Mia, she said, it's for us. But I'm scared, Em. Emily pulled her close. We've got each other. Always. The talk show was a turning point. Emily spoke with raw honesty, sharing Sarah's story not as a scandal, but as a journey of courage. The audience listened, some with tears, others with nods of understanding. Backstage, Sarah watched on a monitor, Mia's arm around her, and felt something shift. For the first time, she saw her truth not as a burden, but as a light. The episode aired and the response was overwhelming. Support poured in, but so did criticism. Emily's career hung in the balance, but she stood firm, her love for Sarah unwavering. Sarah, inspired by her sister's bravery, made a decision. She'd go with Mia to San Francisco, not to run from her past, but to build a future where she could be fully herself. As they packed for the move, Sarah found an old photo of her and Emily under the oak tree, their smiles bright and unburdened. She tucked it into her bag, a reminder of the bond that had carried her through. Emily, meanwhile, began writing a new song not for the charts, but for Sarah, a melody of love, loss, and the courage to be true. San Francisco was a kaleidoscope of color and freedom, a city where Sarah felt her heart expand. She and Mia settled into a cozy apartment in the Mission District, its walls soon covered with Mia's photographs and Sarah's sketches, small acts of creation that felt like home. But even in this new world, Sarah carried the ache of her fractured family, the tentative hope of her mother's letter a fragile thread. Emily, back in Boston, threw herself into her music, but the industry's backlash was relentless. After the talk show, 2 major sponsors dropped her, and Carla warned that her label was considering re-strategizing her career. Yet Emily found strength in the letters from fans, especially those from the LGBTQ+ community, who saw her as a beacon. She began performing at smaller venues, her songs rawer, more honest, each note a tribute to Sarah's courage. Sarah and Mia's life in San Francisco was a blend of joy and adjustment. Mia thrived in her residency, her photographs gaining attention in local galleries. Sarah found work at a community arts center, teaching drawing to kids whose eyes lit up with the same spark she'd once had. But at night she'd lie awake, wondering if her parents would ever truly accept her. She called Emily often, their late-night talks a lifeline across the miles. One evening Mia came home with news. Her work had been selected for a prestigious exhibition in Los Angeles. "They want me to present," she said, her excitement tempered by worry. "It's a big deal, Sarah. But I don't want to push you if you're not ready to be out there with me." Sarah's heart raced. Being Mia's partner in public, especially at a high-profile event, meant stepping fully into the spotlight she'd avoided for so long. "I'm scared," she admitted. "But I want to be there. For you. For us." The exhibition was a whirlwind. Sarah stood by Mia's side, her hand in Mia's, as cameras flashed and art critics mingled. For the first time, Sarah felt proud, not ashamed of who she was. A reporter asked about their relationship and Sarah, her voice steady, said, "Mia's my partner, and I'm lucky to love her." The words felt like a release, a weight lifted. Back in Boston, Emily watched a live stream of the event, her heart swelling with pride. She texted Sarah, "You're a rock star." But the moment was bittersweet. Their parents had seen the coverage and Robert called Emily, his voice tight. "She's parading it now? This is too much." Emily defended Sarah, but the call ended in silence, another crack in their family's foundation. Determined to mend things, Emily invited her parents to one of her small venue shows, hoping music could bridge what words couldn't. Ellen and Robert came, their faces guarded. Emily poured her heart into her performance, dedicating a song to family, the ones we're born into and the ones we choose. Ellen's eyes glistened, but Robert left before the encore, his silence louder than any words. Sarah, meanwhile, faced a new challenge. The Arts Center offered her a leadership role, but it required her to speak publicly about her journey, including her identity. The thought terrified her, but Mia's unwavering support gave her courage. "You've got a story worth telling," Mia said, kissing her forehead. "And you're stronger than you know." Sarah took the role, her first speech a trembling but powerful account of her life, her love for Mia, her bond with Emily, and the pain of her parents' rejection. The audience, a mix of students and community members, gave her a standing ovation. For Sarah, it was a turning point, a moment where she claimed her voice. But the past wasn't done with her. A tabloid published a hit piece, digging up old family photos and painting Sarah as the troubled twin who derailed Emily's career. The article reached Ellen and Robert, reigniting their anger. They called Sarah, their words sharp. "You're dragging us all down," Robert said. "Why can't you just be normal?" Sarah hung up, her hands shaking. Mia held her as she cried, but the pain cut deep. "I thought they were trying," Sarah said, her voice breaking. Mia's eyes were fierce. "They don't get to define you. You're building something beautiful here." Emily, hearing about the call, flew to San Francisco. She found Sarah at a local park, sketching by a fountain. "I'm so sorry," Emily said, sitting beside her. "I thought they'd come around." Sarah shook her head. "Maybe they never will. But I have you. And Mia. That's enough." The twins spent the day together, walking through the city, their laughter a defiance of the pain. Emily shared her own struggles. Her label had put her on probation, but she was writing new music, songs that felt truer than anything she'd done before. "You inspired me," she told Sarah. "Your courage made me braver." As Sarah prepared for her next speech, she received an unexpected email from Ellen. It was brief but raw. "I saw your speech online. I didn't understand before, but I'm trying now. I love you, Sarah." It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a step. Sarah showed it to Mia and Emily, her eyes wet with hope. The sisters began planning a joint project, a benefit concert in San Francisco, to support LGBTQ+ youth. Emily would sing and Sarah would share her story, their talents merging to create something bigger than themselves. They reached out to their parents, inviting them to attend, not expecting a response but hoping all the same. The concert was weeks away, and preparations consumed them. Sarah's confidence grew with each speech, her voice a beacon for others. Emily's music took on new depth, her lyrics weaving stories of love and resilience. But the tabloids didn't relent, and whispers of their family's division followed them. One night, as Sarah and Mia worked on the concert's promotional materials, Sarah found an old journal from their childhood. Inside were promises she and Emily had written. "We'll always have each other, no matter what." She smiled, tucking it away, knowing that promise still held. The concert loomed, a chance to heal wounds and amplify love. But as the date approached, Sarah received a call that changed everything. Robert was in the hospital, a sudden heart scare. Ellen's voice was frantic. "He wants to see you both," she said. "Please come home." Sarah and Emily boarded a flight to Boston, their hearts heavy with uncertainty. Would this be a chance for reconciliation, or another fracture in their already fragile family? The hospital in Boston was a maze of sterile white walls and beeping machines, but to Sarah and Emily, it felt like a battlefield. Their father, Robert, lay in a bed, his face pale but his eyes sharp, watching his daughters as they entered. Ellen stood beside him, her hands clasped tightly, her expression a mix of fear and hope. "Dad," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. She hadn't seen him in months, not since the diner meeting that had ended in strained promises. Emily stood beside her, her presence a steady anchor. Robert's gaze softened, but his words were gruff. "Didn't think you'd come," he said, coughing slightly. "Not after everything." Emily stepped forward, her voice firm. "We're here because we're family. No matter what." The room fell silent, the weight of years of unspoken pain hanging between them. Robert's heart scare had been minor, but it had shaken Ellen, who'd spent the night replaying every harsh word she'd said to Sarah. "I watched your speech," she told Sarah, her voice trembling. "The one from San Francisco. I didn't know how much you were hurting." Sarah's throat tightened. "I just wanted to be me," she said. "I never wanted to hurt you." Robert shifted, his eyes dropping to the blanket. "I was wrong," he said, the words slow as if each one cost him. "I thought I was protecting you, but I was pushing you away." It wasn't a full apology, but it was more than Sarah had ever expected. She reached for Mia's hand in her mind, wishing her partner were there to ground her. Emily, sensing her sister's struggle, squeezed her shoulder. "We can start over," Emily said, looking at their parents. "But it has to be real." The hospital visit was a turning point, fragile but real. Ellen and Robert agreed to attend the benefit concert, a gesture that felt like a bridge across a chasm. Sarah and Emily returned to San Francisco, their hearts lighter but cautious. The concert was days away, and the stakes felt higher than ever. In San Francisco, Mia greeted Sarah with a fierce hug. "You're so strong," she said, her eyes shining. Sarah laughed, a little brokenly. "I don't feel strong. But I'm trying." The concert preparations were chaotic but exhilarating. Emily worked with local musicians, her songs a blend of hope and defiance. Sarah collaborated with the Arts Center, creating visuals that told stories of resilience. They invited community members to share their experiences, turning the event into a celebration of love in all its forms. But the tabloids hadn't let up. A new article surfaced, questioning Emily's motives in dragging Sarah's name through the mud. The Harper twins, a tale of fame and failure, it read. Sarah's heart sank, but Emily was unfazed. Let them talk, she said. We're telling our own story now. The night of the concert arrived. A crisp San Francisco evening with a crowd spilling out of the venue. Sarah stood backstage, her heart pounding as she prepared to speak. Mia was by her side, her presence a steady warmth. You've got this, Mia whispered, kissing her cheek. Emily opened the show, her voice filling the space with raw emotion. She sang of love, loss, and the courage to stand tall, her eyes finding Sarah in the wings. When she finished, she introduced Sarah, her voice thick with pride. My sister has a story to tell, she said. And it's one worth hearing. Sarah stepped into the spotlight, her hands shaking but her voice steady. She spoke of her journey of hiding, of hurting, of finding love with Mia and strength in herself. She shared the pain of her parents' rejection and the hope of their tentative outreach. The crowd listened, some wiping tears, others nodding in solidarity. In the audience, Ellen and Robert sat, their faces unreadable. When Sarah finished, the applause was deafening, but her eyes were on her parents. Ellen stood, clapping, her eyes wet. Robert followed, slower, but his nod was a silent acknowledgement. Emily joined Sarah on stage, and they performed a duet, a new song they'd written together. About sisters, about love, about rebuilding what was broken. The crowd roared, but for the twins, the moment was about their family, their bond, their shared fight. After the concert, Ellen and Robert approached. Ellen hugged Sarah, her embrace tight and tearful. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Robert's hug was stiffer, but his words were sincere. I'm learning, Sarah. Give me time. The twins returned to their lives, forever changed. Emily's career took a new direction. She signed with a smaller label that embraced her authenticity, her music resonating with a growing fanbase. Sarah thrived at the Arts Center, her speeches inspiring others to embrace their truth. But the journey wasn't over. Ellen and Robert began attending family therapy with the twins, a slow process of unraveling years of misunderstanding. There were setbacks, awkward silences, old wounds reopened, but also moments of grace, like the day Ellen met Mia and saw the love in her daughter's eyes. Sarah and Mia began planning a future together, dreaming of a small wedding by Willow Lake, where Sarah and Emily had once made their childhood promises. Emily, meanwhile, found her own path, her music a bridge to others who felt unseen. One evening, as the twins sat by the lake during a visit to Boston, Sarah pulled out the old photo from their childhood. We kept our promise, she said, her voice soft. Emily smiled, her hand finding Sarah's. Always. The tabloids faded, their noise drowned out by the twins' truth. Sarah's love for Mia was no longer a scandal, but a testament to resilience. Emily's voice was no longer just a star, it was a beacon for those fighting to be heard. As the sun set over Willow Lake, the twins sat in silence, their bond stronger than ever. They'd faced rejection, fear, and loss, but they'd also found love, courage, and a family willing to grow. The world hadn't changed, but they had, and that was enough. The air by Willow Lake was cool, the water reflecting the first stars of a Massachusetts evening. Sarah and Emily sat on their old blanket, the one they'd used as kids, its edges frayed but its memories intact. They were older now, their lives shaped by battles won and wounds still healing, but the lake felt timeless, a witness to their unbreakable bond. Sarah's wedding to Mia was months away, planned for this very spot. She and Mia had spent hours designing invitations, choosing flowers and dreaming of a day where love would be celebrated, not judged. Emily was to be the maid of honor, her speech already written, filled with stories of their childhood and the sister who'd taught her to be brave. The therapy sessions with Ellen and Robert continued, each one a step toward understanding. Ellen had begun to ask questions about Mia, her curiosity genuine if cautious. Robert was slower to change, but he'd started calling Sarah, their conversation short but less strained. At a recent session, he'd admitted, I was scared of losing you, so I pushed you away. I'm sorry. The words were a lifeline, fragile but real. Emily's career had found new footing. Her smaller label embraced her authenticity, and her latest album, inspired by Sarah's journey, was climbing indie charts. She performed at Pride events, her music a bridge to communities she'd once only glimpsed. Fans sent her stories of their own struggles, and Emily read each one, her heart full. Sarah's work at the Arts Center had become her calling. She mentored young artists, many of whom faced their own battles with identity and acceptance. Her speeches, once terrifying, were now a source of strength, each one a reminder that her story mattered. Mia's photography career flourished, her work capturing the beauty of everyday resilience, often featuring Sarah as her muse. But the past still cast shadows. A local church group protested Sarah and Mia's engagement, their signs echoing the judgment Sarah had once feared. She saw the news online, her heart sinking, but Mia's voice pulled her back. "They don't get to write our ending," Mia said, her eyes fierce. Sarah nodded, her resolve renewed. The twins decided to turn the protest into an opportunity. They organized a community art event, inviting locals to create murals celebrating love in all its forms. Emily performed, her voice drawing a crowd, while Sarah led workshops, her hands covered in paint as she laughed with strangers who'd become allies. Ellen and Robert attended, their presence a quiet show of support. Robert even picked up a brush, his strokes hesitant but sincere. As the wedding approached, Sarah and Emily faced one final hurdle: the guest list. Sarah wanted her parents there, but she feared their presence might reopen old wounds. Emily suggested a family meeting, just the four of them, to set expectations. At the meeting, Ellen surprised them with a gift photo album filled with pictures of the twins, from their childhood to now, including a recent one of Sarah and Mia. "We want to be there," Ellen said. "We want to be part of your life." Robert nodded, his voice gruff but earnest. "I can't promise I'll understand everything, but I'll show up. For you." The wedding day arrived, a golden afternoon by Willow Lake. Sarah wore a simple white dress, her hair loose, her smile radiant. Mia, in a tailored suit, looked at her like she was the only person in the world. Emily sang a new song, her voice weaving through the crowd, a gift to her sister and the woman who'd become family. Ellen and Robert sat in the front row, their hands clasped. When Sarah and Mia exchanged vows, Ellen's tears were quiet, Robert's nod steady. The ceremony was small but vibrant, filled with friends from the Arts Center, the LGBTQ+ community, and Emily's bandmates. The oak tree, their childhood witness, stood tall behind them, its leaves whispering in the breeze. As the sun set, Sarah and Mia danced, their laughter mingling with Emily's music. The crowd joined, a circle of love and acceptance, and for the first time, Sarah felt whole, not as the other twin, but as herself, loved and seen. Emily watched, her heart full, knowing she'd fought for this moment as much as Sarah had. Months later, the twins sat by the lake again, a tradition now. Sarah held Mia's hand, her wedding band glinting. Emily strummed a guitar, her latest song unfinished but hopeful. Ellen and Robert had started visiting San Francisco, their relationship with Sarah and Mia slowly growing. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, a testament to love's persistence. The tabloids had moved on, their noise replaced by stories of triumph. Sarah's speeches and Emily's music had inspired a scholarship fund for LGBTQ+ youth, a legacy of their fight. The twins had become more than sisters, they were partners in a mission to make the world kinder, braver, truer. As the stars emerged, Sarah looked at Emily, her voice soft. "We made it, didn't we?" Emily smiled, her eyes bright. "Yeah, we did. And we're just getting started." The lake stretched before them, its surface calm, reflecting a sky full of possibility. They'd been born in a family of twins, one a star, the other called a shame. But together they'd rewritten their story, proving that love in all its forms was the greatest triumph of all. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.